Well, the fog descended at Oxford and the bad run continues. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. I don't know about you, Dave. I'm a bit worried. We do, just to pull the curtain back. We always have a little chat, a couple of minutes. It's quite awkward with Craig, wasn't it, Dave?
Yeah, it was. He's still not in a good place, is he, Ben?
Craig,
he's still not in a good. And he
right?
certainly wasn't in a good. He certainly wasn't in a good place yesterday, by all accounts.
Craig, you okay?
I'm all right. Yeah, I did. Knock on the door and was allowed into the studio. And the first thing I said was, I am still furious. And I don't really get furious, to be honest, but I was just so annoyed yesterday, just with the whole situation. And then everyone was annoyed. Pittle had taken too long to get out the gangway, and Pittle had taken too long to get out the exit. And Pittle just everything was annoying me yesterday from, 3:10 onwards, really. It was utterly bizarre.
So, look, we've got two modes of conversation. Hello to everybody in the chat. Welcome to the Blue Monday podcast. The two modes are basically the farcical nature of yesterday's game, but also the kind of I've got to use my words carefully because people are struggling to cope today, from what I can see. The slight deterioration of our promotion push. We will get to that, and we will get to all of your comments. But Dave, Craig says he's never seen anything like it. You're a good Ipswich historian. Any more? What about the Roy Keane game that Sky Sports wouldn't let be cancelled against Leicester in the snow? That was ridiculous. That should have been.
Oh yeah, that was pretty dire, wasn't it? But we won that quite comfortably. I'm just trying to think. Have I seen a game? I've seen a game abandoned at Portman Road a couple of times. I think there was a game against Middlesbrough a few seasons back. I think, and certainly way back when in my much younger days, I saw a game against Coventry get abandoned because of floodlight failure. That worked in our favour that day. We were losing, then won the replay game. But no, I mean, I wasn't there yesterday, but just looking at, you could barely see it on the TV pictures, could you? For Christ's sake, it was just unreal.
Look, Craig was there yesterday, so we'll let him kind of take it.
Yeah.
Take us through and how the situation sort of progressed. So we got the temperature news of the temperature drop. League One wasn't actually that terrible for postponements. I think the worst one was at Peterborough at 1:40. And
stinker.
Put it this way, I had 7 versions of the format of the ITV highlight show sent to me during the morning yesterday. So
wow.
A lot worse in League Two, Craig. I think nine games sort of went. But driving up, Craig, and getting to the ground and getting to the game, did you kind of smell trouble?
Well, this is the thing, because when we left home about 10ish, whenever it was yesterday, the same time Sean Connery plays Racket Sports, it was bright sunshine, and we thought, we're going to need sunglasses and a cap. It's going to be like it was at Lincoln a few weeks ago, where the sun was right directly in your eyes, and it was sort of like that all the way around. And the journey itself was fantastic. The M25 was pretty empty, blah 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 blah. And we got to within about 4 or 5 miles of the stadium. And all of a sudden, the temperature just dropped, and the temperature gauge on the car went to minus figures. And we parked up, and I sent a picture through on the WhatsApp. On the Telegram, saying and referring to the game Dave just spoke about, the Middlesbrough game, thinking, it may well start, but if it's already -1, whatever it was, -1.5 at 12:30, 1 o'clock, whenever we got to the ground, there's a chance that during the course of the game, it's only going to get colder and areas of the ground might solidify like they did in that Middlesbrough game, didn't they? It was that strip along near the dugouts.
And Craig, of all the stadiums in England in terms of protecting the pitch from the elements, this is not the one, is it?
Well, no, very fair point. But then when we got to the ground, had something where we got to go, and it's just a bit misty, a bit murky around. And he thought, it's a bit strange. It might clear up. The sun might, burn it off and things like that. But the sun never, ever broke free. It was just got worse and worse during the game. And me and my boy Oscar were judging it by whether we could see the far corner flag. oh, we can just about see the corner flag sort of thing. And then when it got to half time, that had pretty much disappeared. And then during the second half, you could not see anything other than the strip where Wes Burns was running in front of us, attacking. You saw that strip and about towards the penalty spot of the goal that we were all looking at. You know, you couldn't towards the end, you couldn't even see the corner flag, you couldn't see the far post of the goal that we were attacking, let alone anything else. It was just, and there's no way in the world the linesman that was in front of us could see the far side of the pitch. You know, if Leif Davis was running up and down there, there's no way in the world he could tell if he was offside or not.
How was it? Was it like swirling around? Because I mean, the rule of thumb here is the ref, the old adage, the ref stands in the centre circle. If he can see both goals, game on. So presumably he could do that. So was it just swirling around the sides, or
no? It just descended and settled and got thicker, and then injury time actually it alleviated a little bit. But the linesman could not see the far side of the pitch with any clarity to know if Leif Davis's thigh was further forward than the right back, for example. Not
the other thing, how or could you actually see when? Was at the far side from you, or could you see when at 74 or whenever when the ref was consulting with Robinson and McKenna? Could you see that or not?
Saw it the first time.
How long did they stop and talk about it?
They sort of spoke just as they went into the second half. They had a bit of a chat. He pulled both captains over to start with, and then he walked over to the dugouts. But you couldn't see the dugouts, but you assume that's what was happening. But the second time, I had to read Phil's match report, TWTD, to know that he'd done it a second time because no one knew you couldn't see it.
Wow.
It was mental. So you couldn't see the dugouts, let alone any conversations that were happening. People were going down injured in the centre circle. You couldn't see that. So we were reliant fully when the ball went into our defending half in the second half, where Christian Walton was stood. You were reliant on the Oxford fans cheering or booing or clapping or whatever to have an indication of what was going on. You hadn't got a clue. No idea.
What we're going to do, let's try and take it like a normal match review up until, and then we can have the discussion. And let me give a challenge to the chat. We've got plenty of people in the chat. I have been on the IFAB, EFL, and FA websites to find a mention of the 74th minute. Look, I think we all know that unless a conversation is either recorded or written down, it's not going to mean anything. But it would be interesting. It would be interesting to know if anyone can find any evidence of. Obviously, this conversation is now he said, she said, and I'm sure Carl Robinson will have a version. The referee will have a version that we'll never hear, and Kieran McKenna will have a version, Dave.
Well, probably the most unlikeliest version I've heard so far is that both managers were in agreement to continue. That's probably the most unlikeliest version, isn't it?
Well, my understanding, Dave, was they were in agreement once they were told that it would be.
Oh, yeah, okay. About the ruling.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But we're very, very much.
To be fair, I think. Yeah, to be fair, I think Robinson did then subsequently allude to that, didn't he? Because he said, "Oh well, of course they wanted to carry on because they needed the points to, keep in touch with the top two." So, okay, yeah, I guess that's where that.
The thing is, obviously, it's a lot easier to abandon it when it's 1-1, isn't it? Because neither team's got any skin in the game. As soon as a team goes in the lead, you're not abandoning it, are you? Regardless of what the rules are. Well, it's going to be more difficult to abandon it.
But the score should be irrelevant to whether a game is abandoned or not.
Oh, no, absolutely. No, you're right.
Even if a team is 5-0 up, if you can't see what you're doing, you can't play the match, can you? Right?
Yeah.
Craig's right, though. At 1-1, you would think that sort of sense would take precedence and everyone would be in agreement. Yeah, okay, we'll come back next month or whatever. But there you go.
Well, let's try and do this how we would do a normal match and go through the teams, because I suppose there's some sense of how things are gonna move. Ipswich team then, Dave: Walton, Danassian, Wolfenden, Burgess, Davis, Burns, Morsey, Evans, Harness, Hurst down the middle, and Chaplin with Ladapo, Broadhead, Aluko, Clark, Jackson, Luongo, and Plagkey. Is
madness. That bench is madness, isn't it? For League One, that's absolute craziness. But yeah, I think the side, I believe we said a week ago, looking forward to this game that potentially Hurst in for Ladapo. And I think that's probably what they said on the pre-match show as well. Obviously, Clark signed later on, fairly late this week. So good to. He was obviously eligible, but good to see him good to see him on the bench. But yeah, I think pretty much that was a side that we pretty much expected. Obviously, Broadhead had that slight muscle injury last week and wasn't even in the squad. So yeah, fully expected him to be on the bench. So I don't think there's any great surprises there, really. Perhaps some of the surprises was who wasn't on the bench, for God's sake. I mean, it's just nuts, that bench, isn't it?
Craig, how I know we're going to get horses for courses. How close is that to the strongest 11? Less Broadhead and Clark, maybe. But how do you fit them in anyway?
Yeah. Probably those two coming in. Maybe for Tuesday would probably be it, wouldn't it? It was good to see Hurst from the beginning. He was a bit isolated, but when he did what he did do, he did very well. The balls were being pinged into him at all heights, and he was bringing them down. He was controlling them. He was laying them off. What he did do very well was actually what we saw Wiltshire do for their goal, is that he was pinning their defenders. He was judging the flight of the ball, like Daryl Murphy used to do. He was judging the flight of the ball and getting in position, and then holding the defender off and holding his ground to control the ball and get it under control.
Like that, yeah.
Which is good for a kid of his age, compared to a 30-year-old Daryl Murphy, for example.
And how did things play out in the first half then, Craig?
Terribly scrappy, really. There were so many fouls. When we could still sort of see what was going on, there was just so many little niggly fouls, and they predominantly were being given against us, which obviously they may well have been fouls, but the more it happens, the more it riles everybody up. It was just such a stop-start game for the duration of the whole game, really. But the first half, especially, neither team really got into the flow. But they were pressing us really, really high up the pitch. To be fair, they were aggressive in the tackle. They were giving us very little time the ball at all. Walton wasn't getting a chance to pass it out very often from the back because they were pushed, right at the pitch. Similar to what they did in the home game, really, but they carried it on for longer than they did in the home game. They sort of tired, didn't they?
And didn't they change formation? I think McKenna said afterwards they'd never seen Oxford play that way. They went 3-5-2, didn't they?
Yeah, and they got an awful lot of throw-ins, which they just slung into our box. It was like textbook long ball teams, whereby the whole game stops until all the defenders come up, and Hurst was having to come back to defend. And that happened a lot of times. A dozen or so long throws in the first half hour or so.
Craig, that's not typical for. I've seen lots of Cole Robinson teams, and is that just literally him saying, "Look, this is going to get ridiculous. Let's just play low risk, rudimentary football"?
Yeah, possibly, or they just know that we might. If one of our Achilles heel, it's our Achilles heel is balls into the box. We haven't got more than two. Are we Achilles heels?
We obviously dealt with that quite well, though, didn't we? Then first of all, obviously we didn't concede from that.
Yeah, we were pretty strong. Yeah, Burgess won a lot of headers, which is why he's in the team to do. But yeah, it was noticeable that at any opportunity they were trying to get it into the box.
I should do the Oxford team really quickly. So Eastwood in goal, Long, Moore, sponsored by Bet365, Kieran Brown, Fleming and Anderson, the wing-backs, Brannigan, McGuane, Bate, Wiltshire and Bodin up top. And Dave, sort of images of Brandon Hanlon for Wickham. It's a really bad first. Look, I'll give Wiltshire some credit. The first bit is good to get into the box, but it's so poor after that, isn't it?
It's very reminiscent of that goal, but I think this might be even worse. As someone said on our Telegram group today, it's perhaps the wrong way round, because perhaps when he pins Wolfenden, you could perhaps it was the other way round and Burgess sort of leaning over him and perhaps trying to win the first ball. But as Craig was just saying about Hurst, Wolfenden was just pinned and turned too easy. Sorry, that's just too easy. Great I've got to say, brilliant first touch from Wiltshire. Really, really brilliant first touch. And then it gets horrible. I mean, it's a half-hearted challenge from Danasian. He doesn't really, I don't know, what's he trying to do there? He doesn't really, I don't know, he sort of bundles through Danasian, doesn't he? He's got to put his foot through that somehow, but he sort of bundles through Danasian. All of a sudden, he's heading towards the box. Well, in the box by now. I think Wolfenden has another go at him, but again, he's just not strong. And not say not strong enough. He just doesn't get anywhere near him. And very similar to the really similar to the Wickham game is that Burgess kind of does he try and anticipate he's going to move inside? I don't know, but just doesn't make a challenge. Doesn't make any challenge,
isn't it?
He's just static. He's static there, and neat finish, but he's one-on-one by that time with one-on-one with Walton, and neat side for finish in the corner. But that's awful. And I think that's worse than the Wickham goal, just because it comes from a punt from the goalkeeper. Terrible, terrible from Wilford, and terrible from Danassian, terrible from Prematch. I mean, it is. It's a combination of crap.
We'd stop them going short. If you watch the replay, we were pushed right up on them, so they couldn't take the ball short. So the goalkeeper's just like, Christ, I can't do anything else. I'm just going to stick it up the pitch. And as you say, it's a lovely first touch.
No, it's a great.
And then it's just weak. It's weak from Wolfenden. It's weak from Wolfenden again. It's weak from Danassian, and it's
nothing.
Weird from Burgess.
It's almost like really similar to the Wickham that he almost tries to. I don't know, second guess him. Is he going to go inside? He just doesn't do anything.
But there was that old excuse, Dave, we've talked about loads on the pod in the Wickham game, where you got two defensive players too close together and, one passes, and by the time he's gone through, they're both gone. That wasn't the issue with this goal, was it?
No, I think this was far worse than the Wickham. I mean, the Wickham goal was bad enough. I think this is far worse than that. It's just a horrible, horrible goal to concede. And, you just can't concede goals like that. You can't.
Can someone help me out in the chat? I might be conflating two different away games at Wigan, but it might be the same game. I remember a really foggy game at Wigan.
Yeah.
David McGoldrick or Brett Pittman scoring. And I also remember Yannick Wildschut giving Luke Chambers playing right back a horrible game.
He ran him, didn't he?
Wigan.
He ran him.
Yeah. Can anyone tell me in the chat whether that's the same game or I'm conflating two different
McGoldrick
games?
got a late. I want to say McGoldrick got a late equaliser.
15, 16?
I'm trying. Maybe one of the pod, Ben. May well have been.
He started off strong yesterday. Actually, to be fair to him, he was strong against Wolfen. I think, to be fair, he was probably looking to play against Wolfen rather than Burgess for that reason. Because he was strong in the challenge. He was holding Wolfen off well. Certainly in the first half. I couldn't tell you what happened in the second
half. Equaliser, Craig. Take it away.
Lovely goal.
Yeah. Well, let's say this is probably the only real moment of real quality. We had a couple of chances before that. Harness had a snapshot just inside the area which he stuck over, which he probably should have hit the target with. We were quite regularly looking to get the ball out to Burns, switch it really quickly out to Burns. He seemed to have a bit of space. A few times it didn't come off. The ball wasn't actually great, but one time it did come off. He sort of bundles away through a couple of defenders in the box. But again, I was like joking to my boy Oscar, saying that we all know what Wes Burns has got. What he doesn't have is much deftness. Where you just dink it over the keeper. He's slamming everything, isn't he? He will slam everything. It will get like he did last week. It's in the roof of the net. This week, it's clipped the bar.
He's got to score from there. Yeah. He really has.
Yeah. But similarly, this one is down that side again, and we'd had a bit of the ball centrally and over to the left, actually, in front of us. We work it nicely over to Danassian, and Danassian just bombs on. He's bombing on 60 yards with the ball at his feet. Oxford are then backtracking, which is where you want them to be. They haven't got time to settle and get into shape. He plays it out to Burns, and Burns, this is the ball, I think. Burns passes a lovely ball inside to Harness, because Harness, just before this, about 5 minutes before, Harness and Chaplin had switched sides. So they were playing on the side that they're footed, if you like, from Chaplin to move to the left and Harness had moved to the right. And Harness has it just inside the box. He has a touch. He looks up and dinks it to the far post. And he got one of two. Hurst had peeled off his man really nicely. So he was free. And charging in at the back post, as he's done numerous times before, was Leif Davis. And he, evades the challenge and plants it in the far post. So so it was a really, really nicely well-worked goal. It's exactly what we look to do. If we're not getting to the byline and pulling it back to the penalty spot, we're hitting the ball to the far post for the oncoming, Wes Burns as a right winger or Leif Davis as a left back. He's done it so many times so far this season, but hadn't scored until yesterday. So it's a lovely work goal.
Yeah, yesterday he did show composure. It was a good header because he headed back. I know it was fairly close in, but he headed it back across the keeper. Yeah. Brilliant from Burns. The ball there, two good balls, but Burns drills that into Harness and a great first touch. And lovely chip to the back. A really nice looking goal there, actually.
Yeah.
So tell me this then, Craig, because I've seen all of these stats of 6 big chances missed, although only 1.2 on the XG. Those two things don't particularly add up to me, but is the second half just a freak show? Can we do any analysis on it at all, or can you comment on it at all?
I can't tell you what Oxford did. If people want to comment, people may have been a little bit further over towards the halfway line and maybe able to see it, but I don't think anybody could, to be fair.
Was it seriously that bad? It was seriously
Yeah,
that bad.
yeah, couldn't see the goal.
That's unbelievable.
But the
Dave thinks you're exaggerating, Craig.
Well, no, I don't. I mean,
he's calling me a liar, isn't he, Ben? That's what he's doing.
No, I'm not. But I mean, I suppose you see on the TV, and TV always looks better on the TV with cameras, lights, and stuff like that. And I mean, bloody hell, it did look murky. So, that is incredible.
It'd have been even worse. I don't know if there's any Oxford fans in the chat here who were behind their goal. At least we're not behind the goal because there's a car park behind the goal. Because we weren't like looking the entire length of the pitch. We were maybe 18 yards into the pitch, if you know what I mean. But no, even in the second half, we had chances. That the gilt edge one was probably I was going to say David Hurst was Hurst's chance where Wolverhampton plays a beautiful ball first time. Really, it was a really difficult ball to play, and he played it first time down the wing to Burns. Burns gets his head up, cuts it back as ever to round about the penalty spot, and again Hurst had drifted off his man. His movement in those sort of situations is really good. Got off his man, but doesn't hit the target. And he's got to hit the target. The keeper's static. He's not going to make it if it's like a foot to the left and going in the bottom corner. And if he scores that, then it's 2-1. It might potentially different story. We had a scramble, didn't we? Where it turns out it was Clark, I think, that hit the crossbar, but we couldn't tell who it was that was hitting the crossbar. And then I think someone has a shot that Ladapa gets in the way of. With it, Broadhead has a shot that Ladapa gets in the way of. It's just scrambled. Yeah, one of those.
You could barely see that on the highlights. You could barely make that out.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. It is worse by then.
So let me give you my take on this back and forth then. So from the Kieran McKenna interview after the game on the Ipswich Twitter, he seems to say from the start of the second half, they were going back and forth. And I mean, let's be honest, we've all probably seen Carl Robinson in the technical area. He's a very chatty manager in that area. He's constantly he's quite Paul Cook in that regard, constantly going back and forth with the other manager and whatnot. So that doesn't surprise me. And then the idea is that they both thought it was silly at 1-1 at the start of the second half, and maybe that might have been the time to call it. Then we get this strange, so Craig's obviously recounted the conditions getting worse and worse. Then we have this strange 74th, 75th minute. So my understanding of what Kieran McKenna said is that they called him over on the 74th minute, which kind of intimates that they thought the 75th minute was a rule as well. If not, why would they call him over on the 74th minute? He said that it had ticked over to the 75th minute, which, again, reading between the lines, may intimate he was under pressure to finish the game, but that's me speculating. And then he said they couldn't call it off at that point. The result would stand at 1-1, and both managers said, well, let's just play on and see who wins in the last 15 minutes. Again, look, I've seen lots of stuff on Twitter about, whining and moaning and this. Look, we're not whining and moaning about the result, and I think every Ipswich fan understands nothing is going to happen about this. And like I said, unless a conversation is written down or filmed, then it's just he said, she said, and that'll be that. But do we need some clarity here, Dave? Because from what I could see on the IFAB website, it just says
it's ridiculous.
Especially of those organising the game.
Oh, okay. Well, I think they do. Surely there should be something written down. My take on it, did it get appreciably... So when the players came out after half-time then, Craig, how was it from the 46th minute to the 74th? Did it get progressively worse during that half an hour or 20 minutes or so?
It got worse in the second half, yeah.
If you wouldn't have been surprised if they'd had an inspection at half-time and called it off at half-time?
Half-time, it was pretty touch and go at half-time, but say from about 50th minute, 55 minutes through to about 85. It was just mental. You couldn't see.
Super.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. And it may have been the same in the Oxford, but everyone around us was saying, well, just call it off. It's 1-1.
Yeah.
Just call it off. But as soon as it goes 2-1, you ain't getting it called. You're not
getting
no way. We're not saying for 1 minute that, the reason why we lost is because it was foggy. I saw a comment saying, well, Oxford played in as well. Yeah, they did. But that's not the point. The fact that you've got absolutely 1,500 Ipswich fans all paying 26 quid a pop to watch a game of football, and all they could see was a 20-yard strip in front of them where occasionally Wes Burns appeared.
again, it's so us, isn't it? If any one team was going to lose that game at that level, it's so us. It really is, honestly.
And I suppose playing the situations, we know all about Cameron Brannigan. David, good long range shooter.
This is scrappy, is it? Well, he is, yeah, and he's got goals in him.
Sorry, Dave. Big thank you to David in the chat there. 20 euros on the super chat. Very, very kind. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant, David. Thank you.
David.
No,
David,
I mean it's scrappy. I mean you can just about see it's scrappy. The ball's pinging around up. I think it's Goodrun, one of the substitutes, gets the ball wide right, clips in half decent cross. Danassian sort of balloons it up to about the penalty spot. And to be fair, I suppose Morsey gets a decent enough head on it, but just to the edge of the D, just outside the box. And it's one of those ones he lets it bounce, and then great. Yeah, I say great strike from what I can see. Yeah, it is a good strike, low to Walton's left. I mean, had it even been a perfectly clear day, I think perhaps Walton would have struggled with that one. Whether it did have any effect on him coming out of the murk, I don't know. But it was a good, from what you can see, it was a good strike, and we know he's got that in him. So yeah, not good.
Craig, look, we're going to get into the because, and also for the mischaracterizing of Ipswich fans here, I don't think any Ipswich fans are blaming the last 11 games on some fog at Oxford. So we'll get into where things have gone a bit wrong in terms of the points output.
But just something else, just quickly, Craig. Is it right? Because all the reports I've seen, it was just seemed the fog in Oxford was just in the ground. Once you got out of the ground, is that right or not?
No, it's probably like the villages you drive as you back onto the motorway. They were pretty foggy for all those villages.
Right.
But it was by the time you got to the motorway, by the time you got to the M40, it was clear.
Yeah, okay.
But it was similar to when we got there before the game. It was all of a sudden the temperature dropped when you got to within 4 or 5 miles of the ground. It's just obviously just a microclimate yesterday around. The Sam was just crappy weather for us, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So my take on it, Craig, is it's a bit of a freak show. It's a bit annoying. Nothing's going to change. I don't think it was handled particularly well. I feel badly for the supporters, especially the ones who obviously travelled from Ipswich. I understand your fury, and it will be forgotten in the course of time, and we move on slightly irritated. Is that a fair position for me to say, Craig? Obviously, I didn't travel yesterday. So.
But I think also there was a lot of frustration in the performance. Yeah, it was a really poor performance as well. Taking apart the fact that we couldn't see the defensive half in the second half, we very rarely saw the ball in the half in front of us. Apart from the two chances that we had that I spoke about, the ball wasn't that in our heart in the Oxford half that often for us to see. It was predominantly down the other end of the pitch.
But again, the frustrating thing about that, I guess, is that we had 6 really good chances.
Yeah, and that's the issue, isn't it? As we've said in the Telegram, we've played poorly, but still had enough chances to win.
Comfortably.
Score at least 4 goals.
There was a good I think it might have been Joe earlier on in our Telegram group. Someone said, about we often spoken about Plan B and stuff like that. And I think Joe or someone quite rightly said, well, no, we created 6 decent chances yesterday. Plan A is working, but it's just not executed well enough.
And as you say, Dave, we're just being so weak at the back in certain circumstances. You're just
can't afford.
Goal. It's not ideal combinations when you're missing gilt-edged chances and gifting goals to the opposition.
That is not a good recipe, is it?
I'll tell you what we'll do, guys, because the chat's moving really nicely. We'd normally go to questions after this, but I think we do need a bit of a state of the union on the form and what's happened. So what we'll do, guys, in the chat, if you want to ask questions, we'll go through the League One action with obvious ramifications of every single one of our top 6 rivals winning. And then we'll bring it back to the form and what you do to change it, what you would think is going wrong. And please, it's our job here to try and make this a balanced chat. We appreciate everybody's opinion. If somebody is really, really annoyed and frustrated, that's fine. That's their right. If someone's really positive, that's fine. That's their right. And let's try and accept everybody's take on what's a very frustrating situation that we all try and cope with in different ways. Have I framed that in the right way, Dave?
Yeah, certainly. I think so.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Let's go through League One. Speaking of frustration, I'm going to start calling them bloody Plymouth now because they're so bloody good, aren't they? I will talk a little bit about Plymouth because I know some people won't want to hear it, but hey, it's the truth hurts. They are just nailing everything. So they beat Cheltenham 4-2 yesterday. All the new signings were involved. They've got players coming back off the bench. Obviously, their first goal was one of their centre halves sort of volleying it in the corner for a brilliant finish. So Plymouth win again. They've won 13 out of 14 at home and are just so irritatingly good. It's not even funny anymore. Sheffield Wednesday in a very different way. I'm getting the feeling now when they take the lead, they're going to keep a clean sheet. That was clean sheet number 16. And this with Mark McGuinness going back to Cardiff and Reece James injured and Barry Bannon hasn't played for the last few games. So whatever we think the whys and the wherefores, and we'll get into that, at the moment, Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday, whatever they're doing, is working a lot better than what we're doing. And I think, unfortunately, that's a fact we have to accept. It was Wednesday 1, Fleetwood 0 in that game. A fourth versus fifth potential playoff game, unless they go above us, was Derby 2, Bolton 1. And again, Derby are in fantastic form, 13 undefeated in the league and just smashing it at the moment. And of course, at Barnsley, we got James Norwood scored in an overhead kick just to make sure the entire top six win. And we're the only team not to. Sort of in the chasing pack, Peterborough didn't play and Wickham didn't play. Charlton, I think, might be a bit of a threat coming from way further back. But Dave, just the results couldn't have been any worse. And you've got to tip your cap to Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday, who are just putting they're not missing a trick here, are they?
The consistency is just incredible. Absolutely incredible. I think we were saying it this time last year, albeit on a slightly different level, when we were chasing sixth, or thought we were chasing sixth. Funnily enough, that went tits up at Oxford as well. But anyway, when we were chasing sixth, to be fair, and it was just the consistency of it's ridiculous. I mean, Sheffield Wednesday just don't concede, do they? Just don't concede goals. I mean, they conceded 18 all season. Incredible run they're on. Plymouth, as you say, now scoring goals. They now outscored us now. I think they scored 50, gone past the 50 mark goals. The consistency is mad. As is the chasing back. You've got to say Derby, what a run they're on. As you say, 13 did you say? Obviously, I assume it was just us back in end of October.
Yeah, that was the last game we lost.
Must have been the 1-0, the 1-0 game. And to be fair, we won 1-0. I thought, it was on Sky that night. I thought they were pretty ordinary that night. But they're doing something right. Yeah, Barnsley had a little bit blip the other week, but they're scoring goals. Norwood scoring. It's just the whole scenario is just building up. I mean, from our point of view, I know we said about must-win games and stuff like that. Put it straight now. Our next two league games, be it obviously Morecambe at home Tuesday, Cambridge away Saturday week, that has to be 6 points.
Dave, going into yesterday, sorry to interrupt you. Going into yesterday, the entire bottom five, we play in the next 7 games.
Yeah.
Plus Sheffield Wednesday and Bristol Rovers away, which is hard.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy. But we need max. Certainly, we need max. To have any aspirations of top 2, we certainly need maximum points off those bottom 5, and also definitely can't lose at Sheffield Wednesday. At home at Sheffield Wednesday, definitely can't. To have any aspirations at all. Someone posted something on Telegram last night, which maybe set up with Plymouth can get something like, I don't know, is it something obscene like 95 points or something like that? If in their last, how many games they've got one less than us, so obviously 18, would that make it then? Basically, is it win 7, drew 6 and lose 5? And you look at that and think, well, on current form, they're going to walk it.
Well, Craig, I did something very silly and I looked at Plymouth's fixture list, and my take, looking at the fixtures, is I think it's March the 18th, if you're not either close to or past Plymouth by March the 18th, their running looks nice. Where are you with this top 2? And then we'll get to the chat on what's possibly going wrong, and get your questions in on that one, guys.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? And as sort of Dave said about last year, what we found, albeit 8 or 10 positions lower in the division, is if the teams above you aren't letting up, it doesn't matter how well you're doing, the season isn't long enough for you to catch them, is it? And these guys are going at nearly 2.2 points a game. Even if they drop to 2 points a game, I think
gone.
someone
They're done.
again. Sorry to get referencing the Telegram group, but I think it may have been Chris. Apologies if it wasn't. Said we need to go on even if we go on a 7 or 8 winning streak. If they they need to drop by 0.2 points a game for us to catch them. Even if we go on an 8-game winning streak, it's just.
And Craig, looking at the maths side of it, Craig, I think where we all were a few weeks ago was these are 3 very good sides scoring 2 points per game plus, whereas now we've made that drop below that standard and they've maintained it. So your position, regardless of the whys and the wherefores of why it's happened, and we'll get into that, the position has to be on the basis of the maths that those two are better at us and setting a much higher standard now, right?
100%. Certainly over the last 10, 12 games, where it happens to be. Yeah, they've
comfortably
completely overtaken us, haven't they?
Right. Well, let's get into this then. So we'll put it to the chat as well. Get your comments in. If you want to put it in a question so we can then kind of address, and we'll try and get some up on the screen. It's moving very quickly. I'll do my best to get. We are reading them all, and we do appreciate everyone getting them in. They won't all get read out. But what's wrong? What's wrong, Dave? What's happened that means we can't keep the standards set by Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday?
Well, I think I said earlier, it's almost the perfect recipe, isn't it? We're not taking our chances. Fairly frequently we're conceding really soft goals, and and just to further compound that, if we're not conceding soft goals, we're conceding worldy, unlucky goals. Just everything at this moment in time just seems to be conspiring against us. Personally, Tuesday, I think the time is right for some sort of shake-up. Wouldn't be surprised to see Clark starting on Tuesday, and certainly wouldn't be surprised to see both Broadhead, all the new signings, maybe Luongo, maybe not, but certainly.
Is that a 4-3-3 shape then, Dave?
Potentially, I think, yeah. Honestly, I think it just needs to be a change in approach, but yeah, maybe a change in formation, and certainly I think we need to get those 3 in the team as soon as possible. I think. Which may be a little bit harsh on maybe someone like Harness. I know perhaps Harness is a little bit Marmite. Perhaps he's dog with a bit of inconsistency, maybe. But I like him. I think he's a potential game changer for me, Harness. He's got a goal in him, and he can be creative. All right, sometimes his first touch is a bit awry, but I quite like Harness. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see all 3 starting on Tuesday, and I think that probably is the right way to go. Central defence is a concern, isn't it? I mean, Edmondson is the thing. Edmondson is the one. Again, not in the squad yesterday, I don't think. Yeah, what's going on? What is going on there? I mean, I think McKenna quite likes that balance of right foot Wolfen and left foot Burgess. But again, maybe the time's right for Edmondson, but I'm not really sure what's going on there. Played really well, I thought, against Rotherham. Again, they were fairly toothless, to be fair, but I thought he played really well against Rotherham the other week. But yeah, I would expect changes on just a general shake-up on Tuesday, and I think that's what's needed, to be fair.
Craig, is there anything? I've got this idea in my head that I can't articulate very well. Is there anything in that we're almost overcomplicating it more so than Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday doing, that Dave's mentioned? Sheffield Wednesday are, they're going to be very, very solid. I think the chat are mentioning both sides seem to take more risks in terms of long range shooting and those type of goals that we don't particularly seem to score. And this sort of Plymouth intensity and ruthlessness. And whilst we're trying to play this very admirable, use whatever words you're comfortable with, progressive. Yeah. Is there anything in that, and we may see a Paul Warne team, and every interview goes, play forward, run forward, make defenders defend. I'll take both the fullbacks off at 60, leave it all out there. It's not complicated. Is there anything in that?
Very possibly, yeah. Without, we don't wish to sound condescending and say that their football's more basic than ours is. Ours is, potentially is overcomplicated and intricate. But by the same token, we are creating the chances to put these games to bed. We're just simply not taking them. We say, a lot of people are saying about luck. You can't control balls looping off of people and ending up in the top corner of the net, but you can control opposition attackers waltzing into your box unimpeded and slotting it past the goalkeeper. Again, there's been questions in there, and we'll talk about it in a sec. But the goalkeeper, he's not doing anything you wouldn't expect him to do. He's not pulling off any saves. The 2 1-on-1s, the one against Wickham and the one yesterday against Oxford, it's not beyond the realms of possibility that you can say, well, any chance of getting a leg on it and deflecting it over the bar or deflecting it wide, just getting something in the way of it. He's not even getting in the way of those, is he? Either. He's saving what he should do, but he's not necessarily saving
confidence.
What you don't expect. Yeah, I think he has.
So would you take him out, Craig?
No,
I wouldn't.
No, 100% not. But you just need him to up his game the same way you need the strikers to up their game, the same way you need your defenders, apart Leif Davis apart probably, to up their game. Just get stronger in the tackle. Let's get a bit more decisive up front, and it'll be fine. But we're just leaving it too late.
You use the right word, Ben, back a few minutes ago. Ruthless. We're just not ruthless in front of goal, are we? You really do. That's what you need. We said it before. Go cold in front of goal and just find the corner. We're not. Chaplin can do it, can't he? Chaplin does it. Although apparently, I don't think anyone saw it yesterday. Apparently, he didn't see the cross. He missed a fairly gilt-edged header apparently yesterday. But that's it. We're just not ruthless enough in front of goal, because to agree, it must be working. You're creating with 6 really good. Okay, the XG didn't bear that out, but you're creating 6 really good chances. So Craig, that should be, you take 2 of them, 3 of them, you're away, you're winning games. But we just, for one reason or another, we just contrive somehow not to.
This is Alex. Dave's already spoken about this, so I'll go to Craig. Going forwards, do you see us going to a back 3 with Clark, or staying with a back 4 as him as a right back? I think people who are talking about a reshuffle, and Dave's mentioned it, you might like to lose a centre back, which might mean you can. I don't want to sound like Neil Warnock. You might be able to shift that ball forward a little bit quicker. Do you need the congregation of that percentage of your players in that half? I know it's not that simple as more defenders equals more defensive. I get it, but I think a lot of people. What change would that make to what we look like, Craig, if it was a back 4 and maybe fullbacks forward involved, and then you obviously get an extra midfielder, don't you?
Yeah, I don't see us changing the shape of formation. I just see it simply as being an upgrade on what we've currently got in terms of personnel. Clark is hopefully an upgrade on Danassian. Poor old Danassian's been, we know what he's like, but he has been relatively poor the last dozen or so games. He hasn't been on it. The opposition pick him out when he gets the ball to his feet. They're on him straight away. His partnership with Burns hasn't been as good as it was last year. That may be down to Burns as well, being off his game comparatively to this year. I just think that we'll keep doing what we're doing, just aim to do it even better than we are with an upgrade in personnel. It may be that yesterday, again, Morsey was probably the standout pick certainly of our midfield. I don't think Evans has got back to his pre-injury performances, so it may be something that you can do in there. I don't know. We just need more people to be standing up, and that's a hoary old phrase, stand up and be counted, because it's literally Morsey again by himself. You've got enough people on that pitch now with a lot of experience behind them to be dragging that team forward, but it just seems to be a bit of a one-man show in that respect, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that's probably quite a good link, Dave. And Neil puts there in the chat, we need to be mentally tougher. Now, where do we stand on this mentality possibly issue? Because obviously we did have a lead going into the Christmas Day, probably Boxing Day. Did we lose against Wickham? I can't remember. We were top of the table. I'm not saying Neil's wrong. We might not be mentally tough. How do you quantify that one? How do you improve? Because it's an easy thing to say, and he might be right. But what's your take on this?
Well, it breeds it, doesn't it? It breeds it. If you can keep conceding these late goals, if you keep conceding leads, it does put doubt. It must put doubt. You can have any psychologist in the world, behind you and giving you advice and stuff, but it has to be in the back of the mind that, and especially at Port, you can see it from time to time. I know we said on the pod last week about the Suffolk sigh at Portman Road when 9 minutes came up against Plymouth. That gravitates to the players. It must do. So I don't know. It's a confidence thing. I think it's again. It's as Craig said. The phrase he used, but it's being brave at the right minutes, being brave with the ball. At the right time, at these crucial moments, and making the right decisions. It really is.
But the thing is, sorry, I just cut across. But you've got Walton, Morsey, and Evans have all won promotion from this division as champions. So they've done it. They've been there and done it, but for whatever reason,
Craig is so right. That makes it even more harder to understand because you look at the backbone of the side, and they are characters that have been there and done it before. I don't think mentality. I think there perhaps is a degree of that, but sometimes you just have to roll up your sleeves, and these players just have to be counted.
I want to read Steve's comment there. Stevie, with the attacking players we have, how do we miss so many chances? Are we trying to score the perfect goal? I think there's something in that, Craig. And again, if you make the comparisons, and I often joke, Plymouth are level. Has everyone got 70th minute penciled in when one of their attacking players bangs one in off the post from 25 yards? But is there something to the effect of a slower build-up allows players to be in defensive position that's better? And if you're not making those sort of swashbuckling attacks and taking those, that sounds really overly simplistic, but that would explain away a disparity between goals and expected goals, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, as I said when I was briefly going through the match, the goal that we scored from, as I said, when Janassian was belting forward, Oxford were backpedaling. They were struggling to get into position, and as a result, they all weren't in position for when Harness got the ball across to Davis. And similarly, the Hurst chance in the second half was a quick ball from Wolfenden down the line to Burns. A couple of touches, head up, pull back, attackers running onto it again, but it goes wide. So there is that. We do things quicker. It doesn't give people a chance to set. And then similarly, we know we don't take many shots from range. I was lucky enough to catch a little bit of the Arsenal Man U game this evening, and when Saka stuck that shot in from 25 yards out on the angle, nowhere in the world would we ever. No, I'm not comparing any of our players to Saka, but it's not even something that would even cross our mind to have a shot from there, is it? We'd be setting up again, going backwards across the line and down the other side, or looking to feed it down the channel to pull back to the penalty spot. So I do think there's an element of needing to mix up a little bit, but still sticking to our principles. Just do things just a little bit quicker. I'm not saying get it forward, hump it forward. I'm just saying just do things just a little bit quicker to just a bit of more impetus into our attacking play, probably.
Indeed. Let's see. Where was that question about Charlton I just saw? Dave, the Charlton debacle had a massive impact on our mentality. Since then, match stats have been the same, but we've scored less of our chances and conceded more from
I think perhaps that did, but look, you're looking at when was that? That was like 3 months ago. It was end of October. You'd have. I think it did for sure. I've never seen anything quite like that. I mean, Craig said about never seen anything quite like yesterday's game. I've certainly never seen a game like the end of that Charlton game, and I think perhaps it would have had a psychological impact. But you just got to cope with that. It was I think we thought that was a bit of a freak show, as I've said before about yesterday's game. You just got to take that on the chin and get on with it. You really have.
And I just wonder, sort of Pete's alluding to the mentality, whether it's affected the crowd as well.
I think so.
I mean, not just the players. The players going into a game with a 2-goal into injury time with a 2-goal lead and not winning it. The crowd also have now seen it happen on more than one occasion, not necessarily to that extent, but as Dave's saying about not having seen a game like it, I remember after that Charlton game leaving the ground again, furious, and I was on the bus with Oscar. I said to him, "Look, crikey, you'll go to football for the rest of your life. You'll never see a game like that."
No.
And I said the same to him yesterday. You know what I said at Charlton about never seeing a game like that? Well, you got another one now about 10 weeks later. There's
all will be right when we put 10 past Morecambe on Tuesday night.
Yeah, hopefully that's it for the season in terms of never seeing another game like it in your life.
So, look, what does Ipswich catching up with Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth look like? How does that, if that is going to happen, which it may or may not do, is that us winning a massive winning streak and chipping away gradually, and you get to those last 4 games?
The only way, isn't it? I can see that being. I can see that being the only way now. I mean, I know that obviously, and even because Plymouth 10 and what we're saying, Sheffield Wednesday are 7 points ahead, are they? I mean, even that game the week after next between the two is not really going to have any massive effect now, is it? Not any great effect.
They'll both end up getting 3 points somehow.
Yeah, they probably will. They'll both get 3 points. We just need to go on a massively consistent winning run, and those 7 games we mentioned earlier on in the pod. Those, I think you said, did you say 5 games?
So 5 of the next 7 are against the bottom 5 from. I think MK moved up a couple of places, so it's 5 of the bottom 6 now.
I looked at Morecambe Sport. Morecambe have won the last 3. Last round, albeit Cheltenham, no disrespect. Well, I think Cheltenham, I think I hammered Burton, I think Accrington,
all home games as well.
Yeah, and to be fair, they were all home games. But look, we need to start with a confidence boosting Tonkin, I would say, on Tuesday evening. All right, even now we'd just take any old 3 points, and then we would, and then certainly Cambridge, and Cambridge away's never been great for us either, has it? I remember last season as well, but certainly need to put them away, and then then look at it. But we certainly, these teams in the bottom 5, we need to put them away, and then hopefully get something from Sheffield Wednesday. Well, ideally at home, get something from them, and ideally again get a result, a point perhaps away. If we win those games up till then, wouldn't be such a bad result of Bristol Rovers, who I think they must be certainly top 10 now. They're pushing up. So we just need, Ben, it's just about consistency. We just need to find some consistency, and win these. A good win Tuesday. Let's put the cup game to one side and turn Cambridge over, and then take a look at it. Think you've got confidence there. That breeds consistency. So, and look at it then. But we certainly need to start winning games pronto.
And if that's not going to be the case, Craig, psychologically, how do you approach the second half of a season that looked like you were part of a 3-horse race for automatic? And I suppose the only saving grace is Derby are as bad a playoff team as Ipswich are. I think they're both 1 win and 7 defeats in the playoffs. But how do you then recalibrate to say, okay, here comes the playoffs again, or worse?
Well, crikey, can you imagine? But the pressure's on us, isn't it? That's the thing. The pressure's by virtue of spending another £1 million on a fullback during the week. The pressure's 100% on us and our players, and we haven't shown so far this season that even with a brand new set of players, that the ability to handle pressure's improved.
He's been given all the tools, hasn't he? He's got all the tools now, really. So there shouldn't be any excuses.
And with every new signing, it ramps up again, doesn't it? Because
expectancy.
As you said earlier, Dave, Sheffield Wednesday have lost McGuinness. Bannon hasn't played, and they're still churning out results. Plymouth, as we know, lost Whittaker, who are arguably their second best player, if not their first best player. Their best player. Haven't noticed a blip, have we? They haven't missed a stride.
They've got Zaz back now. I think he got a couple of assists yesterday. I mean, he was absolute quality as well, wasn't he? So
Whereas we're supposedly adding quality to our squad and getting worse results.
But it does take time, no matter how good they are. We saw that, like crikey, in the influx of players at the beginning of last season. I mean, it just takes time. But I mean, from what you perhaps couldn't see, but apparently from what people could see, Broadhead looked like he was quite lively yesterday by all accounts.
Yeah, he got the ball. He had a bit of a dribble at one point, just couldn't quite find the space to get the shot away. But he couldn't read too much into it. There's been a few questions in the chat about Hurst. I thought he was fine yesterday. I thought he was an upgrade on Ladapo. He just a bit isolated, and as you say, Dave, he's getting used to the players playing around him, the runs they'll be making and stuff like that.
He'd only got 64. Did he do? Made Ladapo, was it 64? I think he came. Could you see that?
Yeah, he didn't do much, to be fair, when he came on. But you may have played like 1966 Pele for all I could see, but I couldn't see him.
Or even 1970. Whoa.
Yeah. Well, I'd settle for 2020 No, 2022 Pele, maybe. I would say 2023. But yeah, so I say it's the mentality thing. It's the pressure, isn't it? Because every manager says, "Oh, they're the best team in League One." All right, mate. Yes, yeah, we know, yeah. And then if they lose to us, we're the best team in League One. So it doesn't matter if they beat us. It feathers their nest, doesn't it? We're sick and tired of hearing that. I wonder if there's something in the
boxing trick, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah.
If you slag off your opponent, who did you beat? Do you know what I mean? Yeah,
exactly that. I just wondered, there's something I'm thinking about it on the way back yesterday about, when teams get promoted to the Premier League and the first time they play everyone, you'll find that they're zooming up the league, aren't they? But by the time teams get to play them a second time, they've worked them out a little bit, haven't they? I just wonder, there's some of that in us at the moment, is that leading up to Christmas, when teams have played us for the first time round, they're sort of getting to work us out a little bit. Every team's got analysts now, so by the time they get round to play us a second time, have they worked us out a little bit? I don't know.
I was going to suggest that was a thing, Dave, when Craig was talking about pressing in on the back three and knowing that ball's going to get circulated. You might have a couple of chances to win it very high up in the game.
Yeah.
And as Jurgen Klopp says, a good press is better than the best number 10 in the world, because it can create chance after chance after chance, can't it?
Yeah, you saw it. I don't know if you saw it today. You saw it today with Arsenal, didn't you? Really? Yeah, I know, slightly different level, but yeah. No, we like I said, I foresee some changes on Tuesday, and hopefully a morale boosting win, and then I must admit, I'm looking forward to. I don't know what side Burnley will put out, but I should imagine, because they're about 100 points clear from third. They'll put out half decent side. Really, I'm quite looking forward to that game Saturday, because I watched the game against West Brom. I thought it was a hell of a game on Friday evening. They're really good. They play some lovely football. So quite looking forward to that.
Gives Scott Twine a chance to score from 35 yards again, doesn't it?
Mate, what a free kick that was!
Yeah,
incredible. Yeah.
Let's just quickly talk about Morecambe, and we should give a quick plug. Mikey and Seb, assuming that the nice covers and the pitch and the temperature doesn't get any worse, are going to be here post game against Morecambe. I know I've seen a lot of comments about where Morecambe are in the recent form table and where we are and all that. But how can I say this without being accused of being entitled? We've got better players than Morecambe. They've had a quick splurge of points. I like Derek Adams, did a great job, and he's in great job at Plymouth, didn't he? And can get a team on a run. They're in very difficult circumstances because they've basically got no money. I think they took a guy, Simu, actually, who was at Tranmere, I think he's at Southampton, is he, Dave? Big centre half.
Okay, not sure.
I think they've bought a couple in, but Craig, we're having a conversation about catching teams that are projecting 95 points, and beating Morecambe should be something that would lead to being able to catch those teams, right?
Yeah. Can't even be a question, can it? It can't be a question. It's got to be. If you're not going to pick up 3 points at home to Morecambe, then you're not going to be catching Sheffield Wednesday and Plymouth, are you? They'd be putting them to bed, you would have thought, in similar circumstances. So, you just got to keep churning them out. As Dave said, the next 2 games certainly are.
Oh, certainly these next 2 games. Tuesday night and then Cambridge away, and then you got the big one, haven't you? You got Sheffield Wednesday at home on there. Was it 11th? I think. I mean, you certainly need 6 points going into that, and then.
You've got to beat Sheffield Wednesday, haven't you? Just to claw.
Well, you have to claw any, but you certainly have. Yeah, really.
No,
any aspirations.
Guys, the maths of that is still, if you're playing 5 of the bottom 7, and for example, you also beat Bristol Rovers and you win 6 games and you draw against Sheffield Wednesday and you've got 19 points from 7 games, then you actually don't have to beat Sheffield Wednesday.
Well, I suppose
but it would bloody well help, wouldn't it?
It depends what they've been doing in their equivalent 6 games. If they've been winning theirs, then you're not gaining any ground on them, even though you're winning yours. You're just staying the same position apart, aren't you?
I think I'm sure I was looking at the fixtures earlier on, and I think Morecambe just the weather won their last 3, because I think 3 out of their next 4 games they're away at us, Plymouth, and Sheffield Wednesday. I think
Cheltenham had doing the same thing at the moment.
Yeah, I think so.
Or Derby, Plymouth, and Sheffield Wednesday, which might actually be harder than us, Plymouth and Sheffield Wednesday at the moment, mightn't it?
Yeah.
Well, guys, look, we get it. We understand people's frustration. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to moan about the team. It's okay to moan about the people that are moaning about the team. We all want to win. Let's be sort of cognizant that everyone's allowed their view, and some people will be way too positive. Some people will be way too negative, and we'll try and pick the bones out of all of it. But yes, any final thoughts after Oxford, Craig, and the gap getting even wider?
I don't want to talk about it anymore. I was just thinking that
Done.
if
He
there's
wants to go and watch Love Island, doesn't he? Eh?
there's three of us here, and if I'm foggy, one of you's Compa and one of you's Clegg.
There you go.
That's the last of the summer wine reference, that isn't it?
Certainly is, mate. Yeah. By the way, I thought I'd just throw that in. I did, and I should have noticed the score, but the ladies played earlier, didn't they? Did they? I believe
They won.
Win at London Bees, I believe. Yeah. Think so.
Yes. Okay. Right. That'll do us then. I think we've done the therapy session, and a nice 3 points against Morecambe might clear things up, and we'll be very interested to see what Kieran McKenna's approach is. Whether Dave gets his shake up, not tearing it up, but that's some Queen lyrics, aren't they?
Tear it up,
shake it up.
There you go.
Baby! What a tune that is, eh? So yeah, maybe a tear it up, shake it up against Morecambe, and hopefully things will look a bit brighter, and we can maybe actually enjoy the free hit of an FA Cup game.
Oh, brilliant!
Against Burnley. But there we go. Fingers crossed, we're all in this together. Do join us on Tuesday night. It'll be Seb and Mikey, hopefully talking about 3 points against Morecambe, and hopefully. I'm not even going to look at the fixtures and see who else is playing who. Cheltenham versus Sheffield Wednesday. They've got to go away. They're Plymouth playing.
No, they're not. No, it's that game in hand.
Okay. So yeah, maybe it could be 3 points.
Mate, you know what? I was thinking this time next Sunday could be, good win over Morecambe. Narrow 1-0 last minute deflected winner against Burnley, and we're sitting here looking forward to Man City or Arsenal at home. How good would that be? How good
would that be? We're so fickle, aren't we? Guys, do hit thumbs up before you go. Thank you for all the brilliant stuff in the chat. We try and click as many up as we can, so apologies if your comments didn't get read out. We really, really appreciate all of them. Do come and join us on Telegram. You get a 2-week free trial. There is a paywall after that, but we've got loads of people on there. Great sort of chat pretty much right throughout the day. Most days we're talking Ipswich Town over there. So great stuff. No more about the fog. We'll forget
I've got to quickly just say, it did make me chuckle earlier. I think it could have been on Telegram. Even Wincy Willis got a mention on there earlier on,
yes,
I think.
He did.
She.
Yes, she did. And on that bombshell, this has been the Blue Monday podcast, and we will see you post Morecambe with Mike and Seb.